Ever wonder why making friends as an adult feels so different than it did in college or childhood? Today, we're breaking down three rules of adult friendship: proximity, time, and seasons of life. We'll talk about why friendships form where they do, how much time it actually takes to get close, and why letting friendships ebb and flow is not just okay, but beautiful. Read a review from one of our listeners, Shar. She said, I'm excited for you and Rosemary in your podcast. It's been really influential in my life, and I am very grateful for it. Thanks, Shar. Before we get started, if this podcast has ever made you nod along, laugh, or reflect, would you please take 30 seconds to leave a review? Your words help other women find this show and remind us why we do this every week. Thank you.
Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real-life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together.
I graduated high school on a Sunday, and by the end of the week, I was heading out the door to be what we would say an adult on my own. I moved thousands of miles away, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know who I was going to be living with. I didn't know anyone else on the campus. I moved into a house, so no dorms, no communal eating, no gathering places where I would know people. And everyone else in the house knew each other. I was just filling that empty space. It was really just me, and I was at the start of creating adult friendships. Like I even really knew what that meant. I had no idea. The truth is, adult friendships follow different rules than they do when we are kids and when we live in families and we associate with other families and in communities growing up. So once we understand that we have these different rules to follow, you can kind of stop feeling like you're failing at adult friendships and start building meaningful connections again. I would also like to note that Rosemay and I met a few months after I left home for that first time, and here we are 20 years later.
Oh, I gotta see if we followed the rules. Now I'm curious.
We'll
But
find out.
we'll find out if we followed our own rules. Okay.
Clearly, we did if we're here 20 years later.
Well, they're not our rules. So just FYI, this comes from the incredible Mel Robbins, who has a lot of great things to say a lot of the time. Um, and so I just want to give credit where credit is due, that these are our experiences. But we thought that this was a very interesting topic and that it was relevant to many of us, especially those of us in middle age who are learning how to form new friendships based off of some of the things we're talking about. So one of the first things is proximity, right? Proximity matters in a relationship. Psychologist Jeffrey Hall's research shows friendships are far more likely to develop when people are physically near each other. So think dorm, neighbors, office mates, gym regulars. As adults, proximity isn't always automatic. In some situations, it is. We have to engineer it in those times when it's not automatic. Maybe co-working spaces, joining a regular class, going to the same cafe, attending regular recurring events. And so asking yourself, where can I consistently show up in ways that make repeated interactions natural can be a really great way to increase proximity. Now, sometimes proximity is automatic. Remember, I told you guys, like in I don't know what episode, that my husband works for the Foreign Service, and so we're clumped into groups that we wouldn't necessarily be clumped into. I can think specifically of when we lived in Cambodia, and not a ton of Americans like living near us. And so a lot of the proximity that I was exposed to, or that I had an opportunity to kind of uh, have part as part of my life was really limited. So I wasn't working. There was a time where I wasn't working for a little while we lived there. And we were just kind of embedded within the city, like our housing and so church was probably one of the only ways I made friends at church that I would not normally make friends with, and not for any reason other than we just happened to be close. Our kids happened to be in the same age, and by close I mean we saw each other every Sunday. And sometimes at school events. And so that automatic proximity created friendships that I would not normally make in my regular life. And that's due to like interests and personality. And also it was very enriching. So sometimes we have this opportunity to be in automatic spaces and places, and other times we really have to be vulnerable enough to put ourselves in places and spaces where we can maintain that consistency.
I th-
Um,
I
Go
think
ahead.
it's interesting. There's some research out there about proximity, and one of them was in college and in dorms that
Hmm.
there's I can't remember exactly. It was 70 or 90% higher chance that you will be friends with the people that are like across the hall from you or next to you versus the people that are down the hall
Yes.
from you
Yeah.
just by proximity. And when I heard that, I started thinking about like my neighbors and some of my kids, they're super close with some neighbors. And I'm like, is it just because when we're outside, they're outside?
Right.
And these other neighbors whom I love, I'm like, is it just because we're neighbors and that we see each other and we have enough time? And like,
Hmm.
just not even just see each other, but that proximity, like they're around. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting to think about.
Totally. As I was watching this clip of her talking a little bit more about proximity, I also thought about how this is relevant in different social groups. The more proximity and interaction you have with different social groups, the better, wider your scope of understanding is. Always thought that was interesting. Someone gave an example once of proximity to members of the LGBTQ community, and how just proximity with someone who is part of that community actually widens and broadens our scope. And anyways, proximity is such a big deal, especially in communities of color. Proximity can also mean safety. So, we leaned on each other to survive systems not built for us. So, being in each other's presence, all of that, it feels really grounding. I don't want to say it felt grounding. It feels really grounding to be close to each other. And sometimes losing that can feel deeper than just missing a friend. It can feel like losing a piece of home. And I think about that in my own life. When I think about leaving Utah, I think about the first thing I think about is my community of color and how so precious and sacred that is to me. And
Mhm.
knowing that I don't have the opportunity to build that in many places. If I'm, for example, if we're moving to Vienna, my community might a little smaller. Or yeah, other places in the world. Like my community is just going to look a little smaller. And so sometimes long distance friendships can be hard for this reason, because it's not just an emotional separation, but sometimes it feels like a spiritual separation. And as human beings, we thrive in togetherness. We thrive in being connected, and that gets really, really hard and lonely sometimes.
As I've been thinking about proximity, I just kept thinking was if proximity can have that much of an influence, I think we can really get along with anybody. And
Mm-hmm.
we can really become friends with people. Just how you said when you were in Cambodia, you became friends with people that you probably wouldn't have become friends with. And you might not
Absolutely.
still be hanging out with them or even still necessarily connecting with them. And you had rich, meaningful experiences when you
Totally.
were together.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, our first rule is proximity, and the second rule we want to talk about is time investment. So, time is essential, which is why proximity is an important thing as well, right? Because people you're around, you spend time with, maybe not a lot, like my wave to my neighbors across the street, that's a little bit of time every day. So, according to research, it takes about 70 hours to move someone from acquaintance to casual friend. 70 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
a lot of waves. Hello.
that is a lot of waves. Hello. And it's really funny that actually we're talking about this, and I'll be really brief, but I just had a flashback of a group of college students actually asking how long does it take for someone to move from an acquaintance to like close friends? Like what does that look like? How much time should we be like how much time does that take? How much time should we be spending? So actually kind of cool that there's research on that.
Right? And 200 hours to build a close friendship. So 70 to become a friend and 200 to build a close friendship. 200 hours.
It's a lot of
So,
hours.
right? Those hours happen through repetition. They also happen through shared experience. I have another neighbor right now that two of our kids are doing the same thing. So, guess what? We're spending a lot more time together. We're at the events together. We're driving kids together. We're talking about different things together. And we are like building a different relationship than we ever had before, strictly because of time. And so, repetition, shared experience, it's not just one long weekend, but it's those regular touch points, right? So, just a practical tip, if you're wanting to move in from a acquaintance to a friendship, or a friendship to a close friend, a casual friend to a close friend, excuse me.
You almost said a quinship. That was funny.
I'm combining all sorts of words, making things up. Schedule regular small interactions. So it doesn't have to be a big deal. A weekly walk, a monthly dinner, simply sending someone a note to check in. Now, I also understand that a weekly walk or a monthly dinner, that I just said doesn't have to be a big deal, and those things can feel like a big deal sometimes.
That's
So
true.
they can, they really
That's
can.
true. Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's you're wanting to move your relationship into something different. And this is interesting in the workforce too, to consider you have proximity with people, you're spending time with people, but are you really developing like these deeper close friendships? And we're going to actually talk a little bit more in our next touch point as to why that won't work. But there's a little bit more with the time that's
Total.
essential to consider.
Yeah. And also timing is consider is it's essential too, right? It's essential to consider what timing looks like. So whether it's phases of life or it's just different parts of our lives that we happen to be in. So for example, in Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC communities, timing can also be about healing at different paces. And so, where you might be unpacking like childhood trauma or learning boundaries, your friend might still be used to a dynamic that was much more suited to survival. And sometimes that makes investing time a little bit difficult because that mismatch can create emotional distance. It doesn't always have to mean the friendship is over. It might just be that you need time to realign. And that is 100% doable. It's about being aware that you're at different places in your life, and that's okay.
Mm.
Friendships have seasons. This is rule number three. Friendships have seasons. So, as much as we're talking about moving at different paces or healing at different paces, there are also life stages, new jobs, new moves, kids, shifting interests change the landscape of friendship.
Mhm.
Um, in this interview that she gives, Mel says, people come and go, and it's a beautiful thing. You should let them. It's not considered a failure, it's growth, right? I think that sometimes we do, I'll speak for myself. I know that sometimes if a friendship has I, I, I want to use this word like lapsed because that's the visual that's coming to my mind. Then I think, well, I dropped the ball on that thing, right? But sometimes like holding friendships too tightly to a past version or a version that we expect it to be can block new meaningful relationships or new meaningful ways of interacting and relating to each other. So one thing to ask would be just which friendships are in a different season now, right? What might it look like to bless that shift instead of resisting it? And then even thinking about some communities, right? Some communities, loyalty runs really deeply. And so we feel guilty when we outgrow someone or when those seasons are misaligned, but energy doesn't lie. It's okay to acknowledge when something's no longer feeding your spirit. Sometimes it's okay to say, that was great for that season. And we're both in a new season. And we can choose to realign or we can choose to appreciate and value the friendship that existed at that time. We needed each other, maybe. I
Yeah.
needed you, you needed me. We built something beautiful and we both moved on. Quick pause. We've got something exciting for you. We're taking a select few individuals for our brand new communication skills workshop to help you get clear, confident, and improve those communication skills so you can thrive at work and at home.
We are only taking a small group through this first round, and it's at a deeply discounted price. You will never ever see this price again. This means you'll save money, get our focused attention to help you break free from the patterns that keep you stuck, and finally communicate with confidence and authenticity.
Spots are limited, so apply now through the link in the show notes.
This also in preparation for today, and Rose and I didn't talk about this ahead of time, so we'll see how this goes. But I've been thinking about our relationship as well. Like we're adult friends. We became
Mhm.
friends as adults, as
Mhm.
18-year-olds, and we had proximity initially. We were at this the
Mhm.
same university. We lived on the same side of campus.
Mhm.
We had a class together. So we
Mhm.
had
We only had
proximity.
that one class though.
That's true. We only had
Yeah.
one class, so it
Yeah.
wasn't a lot. So we didn't really have a ton of proximity. You were only there then for I think just like a semester more, and then you left.
Yeah.
You transferred schools.
Yeah.
And so we had that initial proximity in time, and we were in the same season of life. Then we still, though, kept in touch. But even this was like pre cell phones initially. Like
Yeah. Yeah. That's
we had
right.
to make some effort to stay in touch.
How
I'm
did we
even like,
stay in touch without cell phones? Did we just call on regular phones? I don't even
well,
remember, dude.
I'm even like, how did we even like know each other's phone numbers and
I don't
keep track
even
of these
know.
things? But we did it. But with friendships having seasons, we got married at different times. We started
Mm-hmm.
having children at different times.
Mm-hmm.
Our like continued education happened differently.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like our friendship has had seasons. And so this idea of like not holding on too tight and allowing friendships to kind of ebb and flow is really
Mm-hmm.
beautiful because I know for sure we've had months. I don't know if we've had years where we didn't talk, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
like we
true.
didn't talk because we were mad at each other.
No.
We were just in different seasons of our lives
Yeah.
and in very different time zones. So
Yeah,
no
very different.
proximity.
That's also true. But we did try to create proximity when we could, or we did try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not create proximity, but when we tried to recognize when proximity was a little bit closer, I guess, and we could
Correct.
meet up or talk or whatever. Yeah.
We have always made an effort
Yeah,
to see each other
that's true.
and to be there for big moments. Like you came to my wedding,
Yeah.
not a convenient thing. I was there when you had a couple kids, not a
Yeah.
convenient thing. You
Yeah.
came after I had some kids, not a convenient thing. Like,
Yeah.
we've made efforts to be there with each other. But there's also been times when I think like we're definitely not the same people we were when we were 18 years old.
Thank goodness.
Our our ideas, our approaches to life have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've had some really long, hard conversations along the way too. And
Mm-hmm.
again, not like about each other hard conversations, but just this like realignment of like, wait, I've like experienced this thing that you weren't a part of, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a different person now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to realign and gain understanding
Yeah.
of where we are.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's very true.
And we've had a lot of things where we have been together
Yeah.
when like we've actually been together when we've had parents pass. We've been
Mm-hmm.
together when we've had the birth of a child. Like
Mm-hmm.
we've been together when there's been major career changes. Like we've been together during big things too. So we've navigated those things, but we've also been apart when other big things have happened where you could be
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, I'm different now. I
Yeah.
I don't know how to navigate being this new person with you."
Yeah. Yeah. Again, not a bad thing, just gotta figure it out.
Well,
Right?
and
When you
I
value a friendship, you figure it out, right?
right.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about like friendship in the workplace, you've got proximity and you've got
Mm-hmm.
time,
Mm-hmm.
but the seasons of life thing is a really big deal. And if you aren't like putting in focused effort
Yes.
around those things, that's why you're not necessarily BFFs with everyone you work with.
Yes. And that's also why you're BFFs with like a 75-year-old lady you have no business being friends with. Like sometimes my best friend is Judy, who's literally like 75. But listen, I'm ride or die for Judy. Like, like we go into that break room or whatever, that lunch room, and and so yes, seasons of life might you may be in different seasons of life and investing the time to make connection, especially when you've got proximity, right? Something like proximity um and just like time, then you can do that.
Right.
And that becomes something that's really, really beautiful. Am I gonna be friends with Judy if I move or if I take another job? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe, probably not. And also, that's okay. Judy,
Right.
Judy's the best.
I love this idea of embracing the friendships and relationships you have and letting the ones go that maybe aren't and putting in the effort. I'm actually a really great long distance friend.
Mm,
And so I'm willing to put in the effort. Other people, once proximity is gone, it's just not their jam, and that's okay
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So, your homework for this week is to choose one of the three rules to focus on. So, will you intentionally increase proximity by showing up somewhere regularly, either physically or sending a text? I'm going to I have a couple adult kids and I am in their quote unquote proximity. I figured out what is the best way to connect with them via technology because everyone prefers different platforms and different
Hmm.
things. And I'm like, these kids and these relationships are important to me. So I'm going to meet them where they are. And so one kid, I know how to connect with him. And the other kid, I download this other app to connect with her. And she saw that I downloaded it and got so excited. And guess what? I get to see her face every day now
Oh,
because
that's nice.
I decide to show up in a space regularly that I wouldn't choose to, but
Yeah,
I want that relationship. So,
yeah.
showing up somewhere regularly, either physically or within technology. The second thing, invest time by setting a reoccurring hangout with someone potentially new or someone that you want to rekindle a friendship with? Or will you honor a friendship season that's shifting and release it with gratitude instead of guilt? Or intentionally decide to realign? Because I think both Rosemary and I, many a times in our lives, we could have just said, "Oh, we've been great friends, that we had that season together,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
wonderful."
And that would have been wonderful.
It would have. There would
Yeah,
have been nothing wrong
yeah,
with it being like that.
yeah.
But instead, we decided to like share things and ask each other questions and gain understanding of where the other person's at. Like we
Hmm.
decided to communicate
Yeah.
instead and take a pause and decide like, is this friendship and relationship something that we want to invest in? And guess what? It's okay to ask yourself that question, and it's okay if the answer is no.
Yeah, that's okay, man. You ain't
It
got to be friends with everybody all the time.
No, it's
Mm-mm.
okay to have a beautiful season in friendship and it just you move on to not on to someone else, but you're moving on in different directions and maybe your
Hmm.
paths will cross again.
That's
Like,
true. That happens in the Foreign Service actually all the time. Our
oh,
paths cross again and again. And
yes.
so we appreciate and we value what we had. And when it's time to go, it's time to go. And if we end up in the same place again, it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
Mhm.
It's great.
I would say I'm in DC area and we have people in and out all the
Oh
time.
yeah, yeah.
People come in and out all the time. And I think that's actually been one of the things that has helped us because you guys have come in back. DC
Yep.
comes back to be your home base a lot.
Yep.
And so because I'm good with like the distance thing, I'm like, oh great, because it's been something I've experienced forever and
Uh-huh.
ever. So pick one of those steps that leads to real connection for you and practice it this week. So proximity, time, or recognizing a season and deciding if you're going to realign or let it go. That's your homework for this week. We want to hear about it.
So here's your takeaway. Adult friendships, they're not about luck. It's about understanding the rules and working with them, which any of us can do. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need it. Listen, that could be one of your commitments that you make this week for connection. Sharing this with a friend. Ta-da, look at that. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
You know, sharing this with a friend, like if you're wanting to realign with a friend or with someone, this would be truly a great podcast to share. To say, hey, I know we haven't talked in forever, but I just listened to this and it made me think of you.
Yes. And who couldn't use a rekindle in their friendship or even a little note to say, I was thinking about you.
Right?
Yeah, that just made me feel good. So make sure you don't miss out and connect with us on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women, or you can send us an email at communicationskillsforwomen@gmail.com, or you can check out our website at communicateconnectthrive.com. Whatever it is, let us hear from you. I like hearing from people. I like hearing what you have to say, what you've experienced, or I mean, I am a therapist, so that genuinely is my jam. So yes, reach out to us, please. Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.